The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Jesus went across the Sea of Galilee. A large crowd followed him because they saw the signs he was performing on the sick. Jesus went up on the mountain, and there he sat down with his disciples. The Jewish feast of Passover was near. When Jesus raised his eyes and saw that a large crowd was coming to him, he said to Philip, "Where can we buy enough food for them to eat?" He said this to test them, because he himself knew what he was going to do. Philip answered him, 200 days' wages worth of food would not be enough for each of them to have a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, the brother of Simon Peter, said to him, "There is a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish, but what good are these for so many?" Jesus said, "Have the people recline." Now there was a great deal of grass in that place, so the men reclined, about 5,000 in number. Then Jesus took the loaves, gave thanks, and distributed them to those who were reclining, and also as much of the fish as they wanted. When they had had their fill, he said to the disciples, "Gather the fragments left over so that nothing will be wasted." So they collected them and filled 12 wicker baskets with fragments from the 5 barley loaves that had been more than they could eat. When the people saw the sign he had done, they said, "This is truly the prophet, the one who is to come into the world." Since Jesus knew that they were going to come and carry him off to make him king, he withdrew again to the mountain alone. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Today's first reading from the Acts of the Apostles reminds us that being a revolutionary is very dangerous business. Gamaliel, the wise Pharisee of the Sanhedrin, sends the disciples out so he can speak to the people about their fate and about them. And he talks of the first revolutionary who tried to foment an uprising, Theudas. Theudas was killed and his people scattered. Then Judas the Galilean, the same thing happened to him. And so he says, if there's something to this Jesus guy who has been killed, this movement will live on. If not, it will die off. It will die a natural death. Well, we know that the movement does not die a natural death, that this is a movement that will take root and grow around the world, and here we are 2,000 years later. This movement based on this revolutionary. So we have to ask ourselves, what about this revolutionary? What was different about him? What was his revolution based on? It's very clear to us as Christians that the revolution that Christ starts is a revolution of love, of loving God first, and of loving neighbor as you love yourself. This is the revolution that cannot be destroyed. This is the revolution that is of God. It's interesting, we live in times where I think we're occupied with this question, what's going to live, not necessarily what's going to live and what's going to die its natural death in terms of institutions. And I think we can all take comfort in the truth, the foundation of our faith, that the things built on love are going to survive. The things that are built on love will carry on because they have their origin in God. I think we see perhaps one of the great practitioners of this belief, of this revolution of love, this young boy who volunteers 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. And we can take great consolation in what Christ does with this seemingly meager offering in the face of great hunger. That God takes a simple, humble act of love and he multiplies it. And it's the same with us in these times. As we face different types of hunger, spiritual, physical, emotional hunger, we too can offer things to God and God can multiply them and feed his people.